Have you ever wondered why some people, who make the same amount of money as everyone else, end up retiring as millionaires, while others just struggle their whole lives? Okay, let's get into this, because the answer is absolutely not what you think. It's not about being a genius, it's not about getting lucky, and it's not even about how much you know about finance. It all comes down to one thing: your behavior.
To really see what I mean, let's just look at two real-life stories. On one side, you have this brilliant tech executive. The guy patented key Wi-Fi technology, made millions while he was still in his 20s. He was known for, I kid you not, carrying around a brick of cash and once skipped gold coins across the ocean just for fun. Okay, then on the other side you've got Ronald Reed, a janitor from Vermont. Swept floors, lived in a small house, and his big hobby, chopping wood. The tech exec? He went completely broke. Ronald Reed, the janitor? He died with over $8 million in the bank. So what gives? I mean, how on earth does a janitor end up outperforming a Harvard-educated finance exec and a tech genius? What is the fundamental difference here?
And here it is. This is the single most important idea we're going to talk about. Doing well with money has very, very little to do with how smart you are, and it has everything to do with how you behave. It's not a hard science, it's a soft skill, it's a mind game. And a certified genius can easily go broke if they're arrogant, while a totally ordinary person can build a fortune just with a little patience and discipline.
So if it really is all about behavior, then we've got to understand the invisible forces that are shaping that behavior in the first place. Things like luck, risk, and this simple, powerful fact: when it comes to money, nobody is crazy.
Look, our financial decisions, they aren't made on a spreadsheet. They're made based on our own personal, emotional experiences with money, right? So if you grew up watching your parents lose everything in 2008, you're probably going to see the stock market as a dangerous casino for the rest of your life. But if you grew up during a huge boom, you'll see it as a machine for creating opportunity. We all think we're being logical, but really, we're just acting out the lessons that our own unique lives have taught us.
And this brings us to the twin forces that we just hate to admit have so much control over our lives: luck and risk. I mean, Bill Gates is a genius, there's no doubt about it. But he also had some insane, 1 in a million luck to go to one of the only high schools in the world that had a computer back in 1968. His best friend, Kent Evans, was just as brilliant, just as ambitious, but he died in a mountaineering accident before they even graduated. Same skill, same drive, but one got hit by the lightning of luck and the other by the tragedy of risk.
So if we can't control luck and we can't control risk, what can we control? Well, we can control our relationship with the single most powerful force in all of finance: time. And this is where we have to separate the skill of getting rich from the totally different skill of staying rich.
When you think about investing, you probably think of this guy, right? Warren Buffett. His net worth is just staggering, around $84.5 billion. And we all just assume this is because he's a genius stock picker. But what if I told you his real secret, the engine behind almost all of that wealth, is something else entirely?
Because here's the absolutely shocking truth: 99% of Warren Buffett's net worth was earned after his 50th birthday. And over $81 billion of it came after he qualified for Social Security. His real superpower wasn't just being a good investor, it was being a good investor for 75 years.
And this chart just says it all: the power of compounding. It's like a quiet, slow-moving glacier. For decades, it feels like nothing is really happening. And then, all of a sudden, it becomes this unstoppable avalanche. Buffett's fortune wasn't built on a handful of brilliant, flashy moves. It was built on decades and decades of patient, uninterrupted compounding. Time was the magic ingredient.
And that's exactly why getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two completely different games. Getting rich, that takes risk, it takes optimism, you got to be bold. But staying wealthy, that takes humility. It takes a little bit of paranoia. It's all about survival. Jesse Livermore was this legendary trader who made a fortune in the 1929 crash, but he went broke over and over because he just couldn't stop taking those huge risks. Staying wealthy is a marathon, not a sprint.
So all of this leads to a pretty crucial question. Why? Why are we even chasing wealth in the first place? It turns out the true goal, the real prize, is freedom.
There's this great story. At a party hosted by a billionaire, the author Kurt Vonnegut pointed out that their host made more money in a single day than his friend Joseph Heller had made from his masterpiece, Catch-22, in its entire lifetime. Heller's response was just perfect. He said, "Yes, but I have something he will never have: enough." The most dangerous thing in finance is when the goalpost keeps moving, that endless, nagging hunger for more.
So the ultimate thing that money can buy is control.
True wealth isn't the fancy car, it's not the big house, it's the ability to control your own time. It's waking up in the morning and saying, I can do whatever I want today. That right there is the highest form of wealth you can achieve.
You know, we often chase all this stuff because we think it's going to bring us respect and admiration from other people. But think about it for a second. When you see someone drive by in a Ferrari, you don't think, wow, that driver is so cool. No. You think, wow, if I had that car, people would think I'm cool. It's a subtle but really profound paradox. We use wealth to try and signal something to others, but the things we really want, like respect and admiration, you just can't buy them.
So if we can all agree that the world is totally unpredictable, and our own goals are going to change over time, how in the world can we possibly plan for the future? Well, we do it by building in room for error. We make our financial superpower the ability to just survive.
This is the whole idea behind having a margin of safety. By having some extra cash on hand, a flexible budget, or just making conservative assumptions, you don't need to predict the future perfectly. Your plan is valuable not because it's always going to be right, but because it's strong enough to survive being wrong. And this brings us to what's called the barbell mindset. Just picture a weightlifting barbell. On one side, you have extreme safety and paranoia about short-term risks. You know, your cash reserves for emergencies. Then on the other side, you're taking optimistic, calculated risks for long-term growth. You completely avoid that mushy, unpredictable middle ground. And it's this balance, being ready for disaster while you're still planning for success, that's what keeps you in the game long enough for that compounding magic to really work. So, I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. When you look at your own finances, your career, your whole life, are you building a plan that only works if everything goes perfectly right? Or are you building a plan that's strong enough to survive when, not if, but when things go wrong? Because that difference, right there, that's everything.